And then lastly, let's take a look at the final report that we've targeted, which is the annual financial summary. And let me run this for 23-24. The nice thing about being able to run the report out of CalCATS is you can run it at any time during the fiscal year. You don't have to wait to the very end to see your numbers. So if you run it, in January or February, you have a half a year's worth of data to base it on, and you can see where you stand total cost wise on all of your different programs. One of the questions that came up when we were designing this annual financial statement is how do we deal with people that have labor rate changes or salary changes during the middle of a year? And the answer to that is, I don't know if we have any of those in Placer County for last year, but we actually produce an individual row for every employee that shows their hours by program. And if you had a rate change during the year, you'll have two rows. And your first row will be at your first salary, and your second row will be your second salary. And the hours, since we track the hours that are billed day by day, the day of your salary switch, of your rate change, your hours will switch from one row to the next. So when they calculate out, they'll calculate out at the appropriate billing rate for the day that the hour was charged on. So the end result we're looking for here is this report, which gives you your direct labor costs, your allocation percentages, and your indirect labor costs, and then your total for all of your ag program breakouts, your PUE, and then your other programs, which are weights and measures, and then any other program that we define for you. And the programs are unlimited. So we have counties that have predatory animal control, and you'll see here Land Conservation Act, Fish and Game Commission, animal shelter, all kinds of different things that county commissioners get lumped with. And again, thinking back to our timesheet, if you don't need any detail on those, you can set them up as straight entry categories where people just type in their time on that row. But if, say, for predatory animal control, you need to track some details about which species you're working on and which region of the county you're in, you can build a little custom form that will track that information and regurgitate that for your invoicing for that contract. So working backwards from here, we'll go back to the beginning. We start out with our direct labor hours by employee. And actually, here we have, no, I thought I saw someone with a rate change, but it looks like we don't have any rate changes in the middle of the year. But we have hourly rate and then total direct hours by subprogram all the way across the board. And then we have indirect labor hours, and this is where we get really creative on how we allocate this time. There's time that's no program assigned, which they don't use, but that is time that would be spread across everything on the AFS on that final sheet. You have ag program time that gets allocated across the 10 ag programs. And then you've got stuff that's spread above the line and stuff that's spread below the line. So your timesheet category configuration can direct time either to direct labor hours or to any of these indirect categories. And then for each of those indirect categories, we have a allocation sheet that explicitly shows you the allocation calculations above the line, below the line, indirect, and ag subprogram. And just one neat little detail, when we do our ag subprogram allocation, we have time that's billed directly to ag program to be allocated. But if you have a no program assigned hour, if you have an hour that's being allocated across the board, some portion of that's going to end up in the ag program. So we include that in our ag subprogram allocation. So, and everything in here are live formulas. So if I change any of these, if I go to indirect labor hours, and for John Sorfleet, I put in 200 hours here, everything recalculates immediately. So now when I go to my ag subprogram allocation, you'll see I've got $1,600 that was allocated from our indirect program allocation that I now have to allocate in the ag subprogram allocation as well. And all of those formulas are live and recalculate on the fly. So a very neat report. Took me a very long time to generate, and I think it's being met with a great deal of success at this point in helping counties prepare their AFS pretty pronto compared to years past.
Thank you, John.
Oh, I hope you'll enjoy it
I'm
as
gonna
much
love
as
this one.
as much as Anna enjoyed it, definitely. But yeah, I think last year, well, this year, I think we have either 4 or 5 counties are preparing, 80 or 90% of their AFS using this process. Shasta takes this and then they fiddle with it a little bit, but still, it cuts out a huge amount of time for them.